as I was writing the story, I did suddenly realize how powerful saying, "Oh, yes, I am" is, because so often even adults get told, "Oh, you can't be this, you can't be that." And that's people telling you that don't even know you or are looking at you and making a judgment. And the most powerful thing you can be is yourself. And actually, the more you say to yourself, "Oh, yes, I am," the stronger you'll become. And actually, the point in the book where Bobby tries to take that power for himself, every time I read it, I get a bit emotional because I'm like, this is fundamental. Like, it's something that I don't think I was truthfully taught, because, you know, I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, so there were aspects of my personality that were kept out of, culture. And so actually, to actually in your heart say, "Oh, yes, I am," and to think you're sharing that message with children and empowering them to say, "No, this is me." It's very exciting. But yeah, it can make me a little teary sometimes.
On this episode of My Words, My Book, we have Mama G, a storytelling pantomime dame who shares stories about being who you want and loving who you are. She has taken her stories all over the UK and North America, was a semi-finalist on Britain's Got Talent, and had her first picture book published in 2024. Mama G, why did you become an author?
Well, do you want to know the secret, Laura?
I do.
The reason I became an author is so I had something else to perform other than other people's stories. Because when I go around schools and libraries and everywhere, I'm performing lots of picture books, and I do perform my own stories, but I thought I'd quite like to hold one of these books up and it be written by me. So that's one of the reasons I became an author. I guess the more serious answer, though, Laura, is because I've got something to say and I think people should read it. My message is be who you want and love who you are. And I think putting that in a book for kids is a great way to introduce them to the idea of just being comfortable being with themselves, being themselves, whoever that person is. And also, there's not enough books about pantomime, Laura, so I definitely wanted to be responsible for bringing a pantomime picture book into the world.
And it's coming up to pantomime season as well, so we're right on time. So prior to the Mama G world, which is just outstanding,
Thank you.
what was Mama G doing before?
Well, I don't look old enough, Laura.
I know, you've just left school, right?
Just left school, but despite that, I've been doing pantomime for 20 years.
Wow, my goodness.
I know. I've been storytelling for almost 8 years, but prior to that, for 12 years, I was doing panto, and I did panto wherever and whenever I possibly could. So I've done Christmas panto. This one coming up in Hertford will be my 20th in a row, but I've done Easter pantomimes, summer pantomimes. I've written pantomimes for theatres in Australia and the UK and Canada. I've produced pantomimes. I'm pretty obsessed with pantomime, Laura. I have done some other things as well. I've been in some Shakespeare.
Wow.
And I think I've done some Chekhov.
Yes.
And I even did a tour of a musical with Tommy Steele. But panto is where my heart is.
That's where your heart is. So you're the queen of the pantomime dames.
Absolutely, and I will be quoting you on that, Laura.
Yes. No, why not quote me? You are because obviously, you've got the book, you've written pantomimes. So you said you're in Hertfordshire this year. So where's that? What theatre's that?
It's at Beam, which is in Hertford, which is in Hertfordshire.
Okay.
I didn't make that connection until too recently.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm doing Beauty and the Beast, and it's with Davina De Campo, who's from RuPaul's Drag Race. So we're going to have an absolutely fantastic time.
Absolutely. You'll literally have a ball.
Absolutely. I can't wait.
Yeah. But then I think taken back from the theatre, the pantomime, I think you trained as an actor. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I did. I trained as an actor. My entire school career was just whittling down the subjects until I was left with drama. sixth form, I did history, English literature and drama. And then once I'd done my A-levels, I went to Rose Bruford, which is in a drama school in Sidcup. And considering I do a very, very British job, I actually studied American theatre.
Wow.
Yeah, there used to be a course at Rose Bruford called American Theatre Arts, where we'd learn all about Tennessee Williams and Arthur Miller and American politics, David Mamet, all sorts of things. And we got to write, direct, perform, stage manage, design. So we got a good taste of everything that it takes to be in a theatre environment. But throughout all of that, every time any tutor would say to us as a group, "What's your dream role?" People would say, "Oh, I want to play Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman." And somebody else would say, "I want to play Titania in A Midsummer Night's Dream." And then they'd get to me and I'd say, "Widow Twankey." So despite studying American theatre, there was always an undercurrent of panto is the goal.
Panto is the goal for you. Yes, yeah. And I just think, and that's when, I suppose, obviously playing different pantomime characters, was that then 20 years ago, signed, sealed, delivered as Mama G?
No, that Mama G was a journey. So the first pantomime I did was at the Middlesbrough Theatre with Sleeping Beauty with Helga from A Low, if you remember that sitcom. And I played an innkeeper with a really dodgy West Country accent. And then the following year, I played the Emperor of China in Aladdin, wouldn't do it now. And I understudied the Dame, who was the man that ran the company. And then the following year, they said to me, "You didn't go on as the Dame, but we saw you in rehearsals and thought you were pretty good. So would you like to play one of Cinderella's sisters?" So that's where the Dame career really started, when I played one of Cinderella's sisters. Of course, they weren't ugly when I played them. They were beautiful and such kindly souls. But then gradually I became a solo Dame and I loved it. I think it's an amazing form of expression, and you get to entertain children and adults, people from all over the world. And eventually I thought, I want to do this all the time. And that's when Mama G was born.
That's right. And I think, in terms of, if research is correct on my part, that you were also auditioned onto Britain's Got Talent.
Yes. So about 3 years ago, I and a group of other dames auditioned for Britain's Got Talent as a group called Dame Nation, which was a pantomime dame supergroup, and we had a fantastic time. It was just after the pandemic, so we were the first round of auditions on Britain's Got Talent back, and the audience was so excited to be in a theatre, and it was at the London Palladium, which is the home of pantomime in the UK. And I got to stand on the stage and tell everybody, millions and millions of people, what I do and why I love it. And then we got to sing a medley of rather silly songs and tell some jokes. And then we got through to the semi-final, which was live at the Hammersmith Apollo. I flew down onto the stage, and that's as far as we got, but I had a marvellous time.
So there's a variety of different aspects to Mama G as well.
Absolutely.
And then, as a child, in terms of books, what book, was there a particular book that you loved reading as a child?
Well, I was an avid reader as a child, so there actually were lots of books. But the two that I've been thinking about the most recently are, I absolutely adored Meg and Mog. I've forgotten the names of the authors, which is embarrassing, but I absolutely was obsessed with Meg and Mog. Every time we'd go to the library, I'd get a new Meg and Mog book out. I even went to see Meg and Mog live, which is very exciting. But then as I got older, one of my favourite books was called Geoffrey Strangeways, which is by Anne, but I can't remember which one. We should do our research before we arrive. And it's an absolutely brilliant book about a young lad who becomes a servant to a knight in the medieval times, and he's absolutely chaotic. And I just thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever read. I also was a really big fan of The Wind in the Willows. I absolutely loved the whimsy. I read the sequels, not written by Kenneth Graham, written by another author whose name I can't remember. But lots and lots of books were big influences on me. And of course, I enjoyed Roald Dahl, we read all the classics,
Classics,
Enid
yes, yeah.
Blyton, uh, and E. Nesbit. Strange, quite a big fan of E. Nesbit, but I think that's because when I was a kid, her books were being turned into TV shows, and
Yes,
I
yeah.
loved Five Children in It because I just thought the Sammy was the cutest thing I'd ever
Ever
seen in my
seen, yeah.
life.
But one of the things you referenced there, Mama G, was around going to the library, and I'm a big supporters. I am a big supporter of
Mm.
libraries. So was that also true for yourself as a child, going to the library, taking out a book, part of your experience about the importance of reading and libraries?
Absolutely. I'm so lucky that I got taken to the library when I was a child. I grew up in Plymouth,
Mm.
and our local library was called like Pound House. It's an old Georgian mansion or Victorian mansion. So going to the library was really exciting, and it was in the park. So it was the best of both worlds. You could go for a massive run around, learn to cycle, play with your friends, and then you'd go to the library, which was this grand, extraordinary building. And the children's library was upstairs. So you'd go up I just have memories of going up the grand staircase, turning the corner, going into the children's library, which I imagine was all wood panelled, but I can't remember. And also we'd have story times there. And it's where I met a lot of the most famous children's characters. The Bogeyman, the Raymond Briggs story,
Yes, yeah.
the Snowman, a lot of
Mm.
Raymond Briggs probably. Probably that's where I first met Meg and Mog. But a library is a great resource because I was
Free.
devouring books, absolutely devouring them.
Mm.
And sometimes we'd have to go to the library once or twice a day. And once I read The Worst Witch in about 4 hours and had to go straight back to the library and get the next one in the series.
Refund.
Absolutely, it was phenomenal. And that's
Mm.
the thing. Use a library and support bookshops, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if someone's going to read a book in 4 hours, get it from the library.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. And for some children, you can actually stay in a library and just read the book whilst you're in there. And it's a sensory explosion as soon as a new
Yes.
book comes out. And even now, I mean, I am very old. We were only allowed out 4 books. I don't know if it's the same in your
Yeah, there was a
time.
limit.
But now, in some areas of the UK, a child can take out 20 books at a time.
20.
So when I'm in a school, I always say it's free. And it's just, I know that some children do not have a library on their doorstep.
Mm.
It's not in a walking distance. Libraries are closing down, but it's so important, if you can, to use libraries. Even as an adult now, I go into
Absolutely. And
libraries.
the good thing I've discovered now I'm an author is that every time a book's taken out,
Mm.
an author gets some money for it.
That's
So
right. That's the
actually,
one.
it's free
You
for
get the
you.
statement a few weeks ago. Was that right?
I haven't got through the process yet. So please take my book out of library so I can experience it. It is in libraries.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're getting a book for free, but
Mm.
you're also supporting the work of the author. So there's no reason not to support your local library. And
Absolutely.
certainly since we were younger, libraries do so much now. They're not
Oh
just
my
places for
goodness me.
books, they're places for people to get some heating. They're places for, women and girls to get sanitary products that they need that they might not be able to afford. You can go and have social groups. My local library, which is one of the busiest libraries in the country, has games nights, quizzes, hosts author talks, has multicultural networking events, has a business unit that you can go and get business advice from, hosts me, does storytelling, does coding, has
Yes,
manga
yeah.
groups. It's the most phenomenal environment.
And book launches. And one of the
Oh
things,
yeah,
I live in South London now, but I'm originally from Notting Hill,
right.
West London, which is very near the Grenfell Tower, where we had the unfortunate the Grenfell fire. So it's very dear to me, that community. And there was a community sewing group called the Grenfell Memorial Quilt. So it's art, it's people coming together to sew and chat. And they did a call out via BBC London Radio, the Eddie Nestor show. They had lost their weekly sewing hub for some reason. And then I thought, oh, North Kensington Library. It's massive. They must have a space.
Yes.
So I emailed the library manager, Fiona, and I said, oh, they need this space. Have you got a space? Yes. And so for the last 3.5 years, every Tuesday, the Grenfell Memorial Quilt come along, they sew, they chat. So it's a point of doing art, being creative, and sharing stories. So libraries is not just for books, it's also it's
Everything.
community.
And actually, the library that I was describing to you when I was at infant school, it burnt down. There was a big fire, and actually, everyone was talking about it because the library was such a focal point of the community that we lived in. And then we got a mobile library, which was the most exciting thing I'd ever experienced as a child. A vehicle and a library all in one. Brilliant.
And we had a mobile library because I lived in a couple of different parts. There was a mobile library. So mobile libraries are also super important for connecting as well. And I always
Absolutely.
say to parents, and I know for some parents, the financials may not be there. So if they were able to, if it's not, the library's not in walking distance, if they were able to get on a bus, because for some children, experiencing going on a bus, going on a train
Oh,
is
very
super
exciting.
exciting. So if
Yeah.
they were able, and I think, if memory serves me right, one can have a set of books either for about a month or 6 weeks. So even if it was once a month, every 6 weeks, you were making that visit. That's, 12, 10 visits a year,
Yeah.
right?
It's vital. And the other thing about libraries, we love libraries, don't we? The other
Yes,
thing about libraries is they are non-biased buildings, and then they're not, you can ask for anything and a librarian will know the answer. And
exactly.
sometimes you can ask a librarian for information that you might not feel safe asking other people. And a librarian's job and privilege is to be able to help you and support you.
Very
They're
important
phenomenal
people. And
places.
even if a library doesn't have, oh, yes, I am,
Still use it.
and you can ask the librarian and they will order
Yes.
the book for you.
Yeah.
They will get
Librarians are
it.
magical
Yeah.
people. We talk about wizards and witches. We don't talk about librarians enough,
We
do
do
we?
not talk about them enough,
No, they're
and we
incredible.
just had MC Grammar in, and he was saying the librarian in his book, wait for it, the name is Page Turner.
Brilliant.
Their name is Page Turner. Isn't
It's
that wonderful?
fantastic.
Isn't that
Yeah.
very clever?
That's
Love
absolutely
it.
fantastic.
It's a beautiful, and I know that you would love that name actually. So here we are. Oh, yes, I am. So a brief synopsis of this lovely book, please.
Well, basically, it's about a boy called Bobby who lives in a grey world full of grey people, but he is full of sparkle and colour and he doesn't know how to express it, and people try and deny it in him, and he gets as grey as everyone else. And then his mum sees his light dimming and decides to take him to the most colourful place she can think of, which is the pantomime. And at the pantomime, he watches the pantomime dame say to the baddie, "Oh, yes, I am." And every time she says it, she becomes the more extravagant person that she is. And he realizes that when people tell him he's not what he's saying he is, all he has to do is say, "Oh, yes, I am." And once he realizes that's his power, he makes the world a brighter and better place, because everyone who's being themselves is making the world better somehow.
Exactly. And I think that's right in terms of everybody, as I always say to children wherever I meet them, libraries, schools, festivals, every child is unique. And
Absolutely.
every child is, oh, yes, I am.
Exactly. And do you know
Mm.
what's really interesting for me? It may not be for you, Laura, so do edit that out if it's not.
No, everything gets kept in.
But I, I actually just wanted to write a story about pantomime because I genuinely think there's not enough pantomime picture books. It's the
Absolutely.
one of the most important and only unique British art forms. I don't know why it's not celebrated as much as it should be. But as I was writing the story, I did suddenly realize how powerful saying, "Oh, yes, I am" is, because so often even adults get told, "Oh, you can't be this, you can't be that." And that's people telling you that don't even know you or are looking at you and making a judgment. And the most powerful thing you can be is yourself. And actually, the more you say to yourself, "Oh, yes, I am," the stronger you'll become. And actually, the point in the book where Bobby tries to take that power for himself, every time I read it, I get a bit emotional because I'm like, this is fundamental. Like, it's something that I don't think I was truthfully taught because, you know, I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, so there were aspects of my personality that were kept out of, you know, culture. And so actually, to actually in your heart say, "Oh yes, I am," and to think you're sharing that message with children and empowering them to say, "No, this is me." It's very exciting, but yeah, it can make me a little teary
No, but I
sometimes.
think you're absolutely right, Mama G, because it's about giving children that self-belief, because so many
Absolutely.
children feel hidden, although they're there, but they feel very hidden in a classroom, in society for
Absolutely.
so many different reasons. And it is important that children feel positive about who they are, their
Absolutely.
self-belief, their self-worth, and they have the courage and hopefully the grown-ups around them, albeit if it's a
Mm,
teacher, educator, parent, family member, to make children feel good about themselves. And I know when this has been played back, either listening to this
mhm.
on Spotify, Apple, or watching on YouTube, but today that we're recording this is World Mental Health Day.
Oh.
And this to me is something significant around, oh, yes, I am.
Mm,
Because when we're talking about mental health as that umbrella, it's about positive mental health, that I am able to feel good about myself, because so many children, young people, and adults struggle, and it has that massive impact. So for you to be able to literally see me and hear me for who I am,
mm.
irrespective, is super important to children. And we have to have conversations about mental health all year
Yeah.
round, but it's World Mental Health Day today.
So we shall acknowledge it.
Absolutely.
And I think with what you're saying, Laura, there is a lot of stuff happening in the world right now that it was a result of a very small group of people being empowered because they've been considered the goal for what we want society to look like. And actually, they're the marginalized group because there's actually very few people who are in control and look how we think or we're taught to think they should look. And actually, everybody else, we're the majority, but we're the ones that, certainly when I was growing up, and no doubt when you were growing up, were asked to be silent or weren't
Yes, yeah.
talked about or certainly weren't in books.
Mm.
So actually, we need people to be included in books. We need people to be able to say, oh, yes, I am, and be confident and understand where they sit in the world, because we need the world to change and become a better, welcoming, comforting, safer place for everybody. So
Exactly.
I know it's a less than 500 words in that book, but it's my little small gesture towards hoping
But
that
you
we'll
know,
make the
also
world
too,
better.
it's about then, and I say this quite a lot to children and young people, is that everybody is unique. If we were all the same, as I say, I was in a school yesterday, if we were all the same, how boring
Be
is that?
awful.
But actually, it's about what are our similarities
Mm,
and what are our differences, and what can we actually learn from each other? What can we actually lean in and to say, but you know, I didn't know that. And I think we live in a better world. The world would be better if we um, acknowledged and we leaned in and we did that listening in to
absolutely.
others, you know?
Listening to others is key. Learning
Absolutely.
what makes somebody different from you is the most incredible way of finding out how diverse and spectacular the world is. So we should always try and listen to people's
Exactly.
experiences. And the most
Exactly.
important thing
Mm.
for me personally is we should never ever tell anybody what their experience is. We should
Exactly.
always let somebody tell us about who they are, not make assumptions about who we think they are.
Exactly. And that's the thing, isn't it? Making assumptions. And I think coming back to pantomime dames, I remember well over probably nearly 50 years ago in primary school, we always used to have a Christmas
Yeah,
play, and one of the teachers always dressed up as the pantomime dame. He always used to do
yeah.
that, and nobody batted an eyelid about it back then,
It's
over 50
fascinating, isn't
years
it?
ago in
Yeah.
primary school. So I always think to myself, hold on a minute, what's going on here? What's the agenda, you know?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I wish I knew.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's really necessary that we remember that panto is fun, it's theatre, and everything's topsy-turvy. Whilst you had a teacher dressing up as the pantomime dame, I mean, my local Amdram group would put on a pantomime every Christmas. My RE teacher one year played the giant's wife.
Yes, yeah.
And my RE teacher was the strictest teacher in the school. And then you'd go and watch her on stage just having a whale of a time singing some
Yeah.
silly song and chasing after a puppet giant. And, I do a charity panto in South East London most Januaries. And it's at a church in One Tree Hill. And for a few years, the vicar would be in the panto playing the king or the emperor. And, panto really is for everyone. It's a joyful thing.
Oh, I love it.
And
I
it's something,
absolutely
every
love
kid
panto.
deserves to see it somehow.
Yeah.
And I think panto's great in terms of what we're saying because there are no social rules. Panto as an art form has lots of rules you need to abide by to make the whole thing work. But you can watch a lady play Aladdin, a man play Aladdin's mum, somebody play a panda. Everyone's doing stuff that we're not allowed to do socially. But panto's a safe space for that. And I think as a kid, that's why I liked it so much, because you just, watching adults have fun is the most thrilling thing as a child. And watching adults do what adults aren't allowed to do, it was just exciting.
Yes.
And I hope that some of that comes across in my book, but I think you can probably tell anyone who's ever spoken to me and speaks to me about panto just knows that I just love panto.
And correct me if
Everything.
I'm wrong here, may have to jog my memory, that the origins of the word dame, was that linked to Shakespeare?
Oh, I don't know about the origins of the word dame, but the role is linked to Shakespeare, because obviously in Shakespeare's day, women weren't allowed to be on stage, so men had to play all the ladies' roles. And if they played everything, so they played the Merry Wives of Windsor, they'd have played Titania, second name drop for her, lucky thing, Ophelia, all the Juliet, so they'd have played the comedy roles and the dramatic roles. And when time moved on and women fought to be on stage and were on the stage, people realised it was actually still quite funny if a man played the older character. So actors who would have played the nurse or would have played one of the Merry Wives of Windsor then stepped into dame roles. And of course, sort of cross-dressing, as it was called then, men playing women and women playing men, was very popular in Victorian England and Victorian theatre. Because music hall, lots of famous actors would play characters that were opposite their gender, which is thrilling because the Victorians, we know them as such a straight society, so many rules. Women couldn't show off their décolletage and they couldn't show off their ankles, their arms or anything. Yet on the stage, they could dress how they wanted. And that's why the principal boy, who's the woman playing Aladdin, wears such a short skirt and such a low-cut top. Because if she was playing a boy, there were no rules.
Yes.
She didn't have any social norms constricting her. So pantomime's always been boundary breaking, and I'm really excited that I get to do a little bit of that myself now.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely, absolutely. So do you have a favourite page, Yes, I Am?
I do. Shall I find it for you, Laura?
Absolutely.
Because I can't remember what the number is. Oh, there we go. This is my favourite
Oh,
page.
beautiful. Yeah.
This one just
Yeah.
here. It's interesting because it's at this point in the book, we've exploded into colour, but he's still sat in the theatre watching the pantomime unfold. The reason this page is my favourite is because when I first was reading the PDF proof, and the first time I'd seen the illustrations, I got to this page and it just stopped me, and I suddenly realised just
Had a
how,
moment.
it really did something to me, because this Toto, who's the illustrator, we've only met a couple of times. We didn't talk much about what we wanted the book to look like. But this picture, I swear on my mother's life, is a picture of me.
Wow.
And he wouldn't have known. But this face, this feeling, the energy of this picture is how I feel when I watch the panto.
Yeah.
And when I first saw this page, I was confronted with little me sat in the theatre, and I thought, I've done this career for 20 years. I'm writing books about it. Little me would never believe it, but I think he'd be very proud.
Yes,
So I'm very,
yes.
that's
An
my,
emotive moment,
yes, that's my
actually.
favourite page. And I just think it showed to me how incredible picture book illustrators are,
Oh,
because
they're so
Toto had,
important.
oh,
Illustrators. Yes,
Toto
yeah.
had no idea. We hadn't talked about my personal experiences or anything, but Toto read 500 words and understood a very, 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 very minute experience
And brought your
and brought
words
it
to
to life.
life.
And I was
Yeah.
like blown away
Right.
by that.
Oh,
So yeah, Toto's done a phenomenal job.
fantastic. Absolutely amazing. So if I was to say to you, what question would you ask yourself about this book if you was interviewing yourself?
Oh, crikey. That's a good question in
Put you on the
itself.
spot.
Oh, what question would I ask myself if I was interviewing myself about that book? I think the question I would ask myself is it based on your own experiences?
Mm,
And I would say, to an extent, yes, because I understand how pantomime can transform somebody's life in a very real sense. And I understand that feeling of feeling grey when you're not able to express yourself in the way that you want. Um, but, and I also understand the power of a parent making the
mm,
decision to do something positive for their child. And I value every single day, I don't say this to her very often, but every single day I value that my mum at some point went, let's go to the pantomime.
mm.
And she won't have known it because the first pantomime they took me to was terrifying and I watched it from the lighting desk. But the second pantomime and then going forward,
That was it.
yeah, she won't have known, but she'd accidentally done some magic, and I fell in love right there and then, probably about 4 years old, with theatre and pantomime specifically. And pantomime has helped me become the person I am. It's helped me help other
Mm,
people, and it really feels, that's going to sound a bit over the top, but it really feels like my purpose. Like
mm,
Mamaji feels the storytelling and using panto, the coming together of those two things, those two passions of mine, and using them to create positive messages for children
yes,
and
yeah.
adults really feels like the reason I'm here. And
Mm,
so, yeah, slightly based on real life experiences.
yes, yeah. I think most authors, consciously and subconsciously, when they're writing, bring in parts of them. I
Absolutely.
think
And I
it's
think also for children's authors, because I
mm,
actually think children's authors are incredible, because you read some kids' books and you're like,
mm,
who on earth thought that up?
yes.
There's so much more breadth of
Mm,
imagination in children's
mm,
writing. And I suspect, which is what this book is as well,
mm,
is me writing the book that I wanted to read. I would
mm.
have devoured this book when I was little. And I imagine most authors are going, well, what did I want to read at primary school? What books wasn't I
Yes,
getting?
yes, yeah.
And also, what you can write for children is so
Mm,
broad. You can create worlds. Some authors, I'm so impressed by their world
mm,
creation. It blows my mind. But then other authors write very astute, focused work about
mm,
the world we live in. And that blows me away as well, because they can take, which I think this is,
mm.
you take a tiny moment and turn it into a fully structured story.
Yes,
It's like
yeah.
wild. But then I'm also impressed by people who can create worlds, write 30,000 words about aliens and
Yes.
rabbits. And I'm like, well done. It would
Yeah,
never have crossed my
exactly.
mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it is an art form, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, indeed. So children read this. I think you've shared so many different nuggets already in terms of our conversation. What would you want children to, I suppose, to take away, to resonate with them, to have that light bulb moment in Oh Yes, I Am?
For me, what I want children and adults,
Mm.
because also just a sidebar, adults can enjoy children's books as well.
That's the one.
Oh,
Absolutely.
it,
Absolutely.
I like all sorts of grown-up authors, but
Yes.
sometimes
Yeah.
they're just a bit boring. I just think I'm gonna read some Simon James Green or some Jenny McLaughlin or some
We've had
Patrice
Simon
Lawrence,
in here
and I was like,
once.
I'll
Yeah.
read something like that and just something really exciting. Anyway, what I think that I want kids and adults to take away from my book is the best thing you can be is who you are.
Yes.
That's it. And it doesn't matter who somebody says you are. Tell them who you are. Don't be told who you are. And also don't worry if you don't know who you are. Whoever you're being today, Laura, whoever I'm being, that's the right person for now. That's all good. And every second, every minute, every hour, every day is a step towards us becoming a more fully formed version of who we are. And who knows if we're there yet? Neither of us might be the people we're destined to become. But I think you just have to be in the moment and say, "Oh yes, I am," right now.
Absolutely. And that is a beautiful point to end on. Is, oh yes, I
I am.
am, which is amazing. And you can please read this book. You can get it from your library if
Yes.
you can. I know we've had a great conversation, promoting libraries and our passion. We're both super passionate about libraries. If you can visit your library to read Oh Yes I Am, amazing. And as I always say, keep on reading
Oh yeah.
and reading and reading. Thank you so much,
My
Mama G.
pleasure. Thank you for having
You're
me.
welcome. Thank you. This podcast was woven in partnership with our friends at Tapestry, the childhood education platform. They have kindly devised the educational resources for each podcast interview. Tapestry helps you celebrate children's learning, improve communication with families, and streamline your admin with powerful booking, invoicing, and management tools, giving you more time for what matters, the children and you. Visit tapestry.info to find out more. This podcast series was recorded at the Quick Brown Fox Video Production Studios in Wandsworth Town, London, with top-notch equipment and a knowledgeable team who are always happy to help. Recording our podcast has been a breeze.